Chris Rock had a new stand-up special that he did live, apparently. Selective Outrage is what it was called. And I didn't find one bit of it funny. And I went into it. I wouldn't say I went into it a Chris Rock fan because all the shit that's happened with Chris Rock recently. But I liked his original specials. And now, as you mentioned before, I kind of look at those jokes even like...
Yeah, you know what? I think I just realized that Chris Rock makes white people jokes. Or, like you said, conservative black people jokes.
Yeah.
And
or just like older black people. Because my dad like talked to me about it. And he... I don't know. It seemed like he liked it, and I'm just like
I'm just thinking about it, and I'm thinking about some old Chris Rock comedy, like the black people versus niggas joke.
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, well, that definitely lines up with don't fight in front of white people. Mm-hmm. That's like the same ideology, and as much as I want to segment that as just comedy and him just joking, it shows a consistent line of thinking.
Yeah,
there are good black folks, and then there are bad black folks. There are things that you do in front of white folks, and there are things that you don't do in front of white folks. Maybe not even necessarily for your safety anymore, because we not well. Let me not say that. It's not as dangerous maybe as it once was, but just for the fact of your reputation and the way that they perceive you and look at you, that sounds like a chosen Negro. That sounds like a pick me Negro. Sounds like I have a bunch of white friends and I don't, don't mess with the Iggers.
We know that to be the case considering the clip with him and Louis C.K. and
it's like,
Seinfeld
now we compounding stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's
your true colors are coming out.
Louis C.K. can joke with you about being a Nigger. Mm-hmm. A grrr, not a a grrr. Mm-hmm. Like I just didn't even think it was. It was like, when he said it back. So you're saying I'm a grrr. I'm like, fam, what? Here go Chris. yeah, you're and didn't even adjust it.
White people are rich, they're just rich forever and ever. Even their kids are rich. Yeah. But when a black guy gets rich, it's countdown to when he's poor again.
He's the blackest white guy I fucking know. And then all the negative things we think about black people, this fucker.
You're saying I'm...
Yes, you are the n***est fucking white man I have ever...
amazing. I don't think he could do that.
What?
I don't think he has those qualities.
There's only two. You don't even understand.
Really?
You don't really know him. Like I've worked with him.
No, like your bit about.
I wouldn't use it anywhere.
No, exactly. These two.
We
use
say
that on stage.
You guys don't. That's an
interesting
two teams
that's
here.
The difference between
That's right. That's right. Yeah. We say
pair
nigger on
up in
stage.
different
You guys
ways,
don't.
but that's definitely a pairing. Who says on stage? We don't.
Well, you just did.
Yeah,
that's right.
You
and me say in private.
No.
These two guys don't. I don't believe he says it in private.
I've given it up just because it's played.
I don't believe it's. I don't think you've ever said it probably in your life.
No, never.
No. Yeah, that's the huge difference between you and me, I think.
Well, you found the humor of it.
Yeah.
I haven't found it.
Right.
Nor do I seek it.
Right.
I mean,
find a way.
Can I squeeze some
You know what, though? Jerry,
bigger?
all of a sudden having a great bit would be pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it would be amazing.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Didn't put the A back on him to let him know maybe where he was supposed to be leaning to with his little joke. Nope.
No.
We just gonna let it ride.
Yeah, this made me look at stand-up specials like Bigger and Blacker, and I was just like, this. But it's the same guy. It's not like he's drastically different. I think the view of him just kind of shifted. And not to mention his last special was a dud. Tambourine. You remember that one?
I do remember Tambourine.
That one wasn't even good. It was him fresh off a divorce and crying about it, essentially. Now, here he is getting slapped by Will Smith and crying about it.
And then, okay, so the stuff about Michael Jackson. Rich people don't read a room because rich people sit in bubbles and they believe that their thought process and their opinion is worth more than everyone else breathing. Mm-hmm. But this isn't 2006.
Sure.
When Michael died. This is not the early 2000s when he was still being, or the late 90s when he was still being accused and all that other stuff, when he was being investigated by the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
It's common knowledge now that he had multiple FBI investigations open up against him that never found anything. It's also known that many of the families that brought suit against Michael Jackson were either found to be lying or settled outside of court.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We've had countless people, Macaulay Culkin, Corey Feldman, all come out and say the things that are described about this man are not true. Some even go further than that and detail how their parents tried to set Michael up. Does any of that matter to Chris Rock? Not to mention the latest scandal that everybody seems to have forgotten about, when Oprah was about to put the homeboy back from Neverland back on TV again. Even though everybody that knew this man, his family, his parents, former lovers, anybody who knew this man knew that he was a liar and a scammer. But Oprah wanted to put him on TV and was forced not to air none of that BS. Or I think they aired one episode. I guess that none of that context matters to Chris Rock. And it's time to break out decade-old jokes about Michael Jackson.
Yeah. And that was the worst part, is which is like, I went into it like, okay, I was a fan of his stand-up at one point, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and if there's something funny in here, I'm going to laugh. Then he basically starts off the show with jokes like that, and it got really hard to get into.
I am so tired, and because what I think he would tell me is that, oh, well, it's an uncomfortable conversation, we got to have it, blah, yada, yada. Fam, I know because there's a list. I know you fuck with some people that's worse than Michael Jackson. Still, to this day. So the hypocrisy of you standing up there trying to talk about a dead man, an exonerated dead man, and not any of your buddies that was taking those trips to the kiddies' playground. Like, it's just so stupid. So dumb.
And it kind of speaks to how dated some of the jokes were throughout the special.
Man, it's like, yo,
an OJ joke.
We didn't move on from that. Yeah, like, we still joking about the Kardashians, fam. Honestly, quite frankly, none of the, other than the Michael Jackson stuff, none of the other material even mattered or was interesting.
I've literally fell asleep at one point
until we got to the end.
Yeah.
Until we got to what everyone showed up for.
Yeah.
Now here's my thing. Chris Rock has a right to never forgive Will Smith if that's how he feels.
Sure.
He has a right to never not be mad about that situation. It is what it is. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
What I cannot understand is how a year later, after you've already chosen to take, well, at least in the moment you chose to take the moral high ground, for the months afterwards you chose to take the pettiest of petty routes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But how you can then somehow turn into the tough guy a year later while you are going through your rampage about what happened. Like, look, man, I don't know where a lot of you guys grew up. And I'm talking to those who yeah, you know, Chris Rock destroyed Will Smith and he deserves this and he laughs last.
A lot of those people who said that on like Twitter and stuff were white, for what it's worth.
Well,
there were definitely some black people who agreed.
I seen at least one black person who I am continuously disappointed in when he makes these type of dated ass takes. It is very much so an old man take.
Yeah.
But if you're on Chris Rock's side, let me just ask you this. We all live by certain rules in society, right? There are all generally accepted ideas of how to conduct yourself in public or around just individuals, right? Violence is one of those things that is not condoned. It's not a very moral trait. It's not something that people generally accept as part of their discourse in their day-to-day lives.
Mm-hmm.
Except for when?
Self-defense then.
Thank you. Not just societal rules either. Legally, in every state in America, in what specific situation do you have the full-on autonomy of the law and the rules of the jungle to defend yourself in the case of self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
So the only possible situation that Chris Rock could have been presented to enact violence and it be not only backed by the law, but reasonably seen from the people around him as just a defense was right then and there when Will was in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give me, I was taught not to fight in front of white people. First of all, that's embarrassing. And if you agree with that shit, if you believe that, then you live your life for white people.
Mm-hmm.
You live your life for what they deem to be acceptable, morally right, what your life should be. You live your life by what people from the opposite race think is best for you.
Well,
you can't separate the two.
And the person who let Louis C.K. fly with the N-word.
Sure, but that's not what I'm talking to right now.
No, but that would make sense.
That goes hand in hand, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying, if that's how you feel, if you feel like it's okay to defend yourself when you're not around white people, but it's not okay for you to take advantage of the law and defend yourself when you're around white folks, just for the sake of embarrassing other black folks in front of white folks, I'm trying to tell you that there's a side to be on and you're on the wrong one.
Yeah.
You're on the wrong one. How can we sit up here and say that whiteness is such an undue influence of black people in this country and the white gaze kind of, teaches black people to move a certain way and code switch and this, that, and third. But then when we're faced with that reality and we have an opportunity to reject it, we accept it full stop. As if it's just the natural doctrine. It's the way that things should be. It's the way that I was taught. Don't you be in here wilding out in front of these white folks.
I'm going to take that a step further. Then saying that you watched a slave movie that he starred in just to see him get whipped and siding with Massa is even worse. That's
the joke.
Nope. True colors are coming out.
Fam. I'm trying not to cuss. I'm trying really hard not to cuss. You can't be the tough guy up there calling his wife a bitch, calling him a bitch. No, Chris. You have a right to be mad. You have a right not to react the way that many people probably would have reacted. You have a right to do that. But he's not the bitch, though.
And saying that shit was bitch ass shit, and then like you said, calling his wife a bitch, that's some bitch ass shit.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I felt disrespected by what you said about my wife. End of discussion. Unwarranted, immature, felonious. Ding, ding, ding. A bitch? No, look, people seem to have this idea, right? And I hate to admit it, but it is an idea that's perpetuated by people who get bullied. People who have been bullied. People who have never been on the other side of the bullying. I'm not trying to champion the bullies. I'm not saying bullying is a good thing, but this point of view comes from someone who has been victimized to a certain degree. That, you're only doing this to me because I'm little. Yo, that's evolution. That's the way of the jungle. The weak get eaten. The small, the meager, the weak get eaten. Now, there's society, and then there's human nature. It is not a specifically odd thing. It is not a out of ordinary in any certain terms for a smaller person to lose to a bigger person. In actuality, most fights you see don't line up. Most of the time you see people fighting in the street, it ain't because the two biggest, baddest dudes in the room came together and decided to fight. Yeah. That's not how fights happen.
Right.
Usually when there's a fight, there is a larger opponent and a smaller one. That doesn't always dictate the outcome. I feel like we've talked on this podcast specifically about that type of dynamic, and people have told me, size don't matter. But all of a sudden when we're talking about Chris Rock, Will knew he could beat up Chris Rock, so it was really he's the weak one for a fight. Why are you twisting yourself into a pretzel? Chris Rock's a punk. He can't fight. He's weak. Will Smith knew that, and he decided to enact violence against Chris Rock. Chris Rock had a choice in that moment to defend himself. He chose not to. He confirmed Will's thought process about Chris Rock. End of discussion. Will is not right for doing it. He's not the more moral person, of course not.
Sure.
And he broke the law, really, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that Chris Rock is not the weaker person in this situation. He is literally weaker. You're not stronger for getting beat up, you idiot. And every idiot who's jumping on that bandwagon with him, he's not the stronger person for getting smacked when he could have defended himself. But I'm sorry, I don't fight for the white folks.
Right. It was even weirder that he compared himself to Pacquiao taking a hit. Dog, I don't think Pacquiao would have took a hit and then started complaining about making a G.I. Jane joke.
You're so strong for not defending yourself. You are so... That's strength. To some of y'all, that's strength. Again, it may be maturity, but it sure as hell ain't strength. I can't even call it maturity because then again, what did you do after the fact? You did everything you could to try to tear the man down. Yeah. You couldn't do it physically, so you used the only weapon you have, which is your jokes.
Yeah.
Which is your mouthpiece.
And he didn't do it then.
Shit.
He didn't do it then. He did it a year later. Yeah.
Well after.
Yeah, no, that whole thing was some bitch ass shit.
I don't get it, man. If you just a Chris Rock fan and you got to find a way to support him, I understand. But you're not going to be a bully and a victim. It's not a thing. That's not a designation. You can't be the weak, meager person who is taken advantage of, but also be a tough guy. You're either or. Either or. You don't win from the bottom.
Yeah, and a lot of people are taking these really bad takes about how this is all just a culmination of, you know, Will Smith hearing everybody talk about the entanglement. And Chris said this himself in the special, that he had nothing to do with that shit. He wasn't the one that had an entanglement. And that Chris Rock is really the bigger person out of all of this because he didn't do anything, when really Will Smith is just mad about Jada and doing all that shit with August.
No, fam. I'm mad that you made a joke about...
Oh yeah, Penelope Cruz and
her husband, right?
Yeah.
Innocuous joke. Meant not to offend anyone. It was so bland, it wasn't even remotely funny, but you did that purposefully just so that you can move through and not be bogged down by anything. It's not a controversial joke. It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. I can move on. And the one you decided to get your pow off on, to get your wow moment, was the one about Jada's appearance. It's so particular. It's about her being bald. You didn't make a joke about her being promiscuous. You didn't say anything about Will's appearance. If you'd have made a joke about his ears, I don't think you would have got smacked. You made a joke about his wife having alopecia and being bald. It's not that everybody trying to equate that to, oh, it's just a joke. Let me see your wife. Let me determine what any physical ailment she has. Let me walk into your home. Or better yet, let's go out to eat. Let's go out to eat to a crowded restaurant. I will get in front of a crowd of people. I will make an innocuous joke about your wife's ailment. And let's see how that night ends. Let's see how it ends. Let's just see how it goes. Maybe your wife's balding a little bit in the middle. I ask her if she's wearing a yarmulke. Maybe your wife has a little bit of stubble under her neck. And I just, casually ask her if she needs some Barbasol. Maybe we sit down at the table and I politely suggest the Weight Watchers menu for your wife. Because it's just a joke, right? It's just a joke. Why would you ever be upset enough to put violence on me when all I did was make an innocuous joke about your wife's appearance? Because I guess we can all pretend that no man has ever gotten out of pocket over his wife. Jada, honestly, the biggest culprit in all of this. Because now she gets to hide behind Will and his actions, even though your actions is what has your family in the news and the blogs.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the affair with August, but then
putting
the
it
red
on Front
table
Street.
talk. Yeah, it's like, and then they've not even just that. when Will has the slip up that he has, when he has the lapse in judgment that he has, you're willing to get in front of the public and say that you disavowed your husband?
And there's a lot of unpacking that needs to happen here.
You listen. If Jada Pinkett Smith, let's not even take it to the level of violence, gets caught having a war of words with Margot Robbie. But how many people would we have in there talking about how bad Will embarrassed her and that how terrible it is that Jada has to sit in a room with the woman that Will slept with, and like, what would the narrative be? Mm-hmm. This woman stepped out on her husband, slept with her son's friend, did it so in such a lackluster way that there's all of this circumstantial evidence popping up around the situation to confirm it, and then treat the boy so bad that he run off and tell all about it, make a song about it. Then a comedian whom you've known for many years makes a joke about an ailment that he knows you have in one of the most public forums in all of the world. Your husband takes offense to it, goes too far, smacks the man, and after he did everything he did for you, he stayed with you when all that August shit happened. He stayed with you after the Red Table Talk. He did the Red Table Talk in general. He sat down and let you interview him about an affair that you had and had to tell the world how he felt about it. He did it for you, and you couldn't stand by that nigga and say that you supported him. You couldn't stand by your damn husband who's supporting you through the most public affair that we've seen in years and support him no matter what stupid shit he had done. Mm-hmm. Because Lord knows you done did a lot of stupid shit, but he stood by you, right? Never once did he come out and criticize you publicly, but you can't stand up there and defend your husband. And now she gets to hide behind all of this as if she's the victim because Chris Rock is too dumb to leave her out of his mouth. I thought we established that last year, fam. Stop talking about her. But now you can't write a segment well enough not to call Jada a bitch. So now she gets to reap the benefit of being a victim all over again.
Yeah. Yep.
Hate everything about his special.
You know what?
Everything about it.
My problem with that take of, Will is still acting out because of that situation is that leads me to believe that Will Smith is so emotionally unhinged that a year or two after they went through all that shit, he has to go up and smack Chris Rock.
I don't think it had anything to do with August Alsina.
I don't either. That's my point.
I think there's something personal that might have been said or done before the Oscars, and this is not the first time that they had a conversation about him speaking on Jada. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens here we at the Oscars, I hear all of these benign ass jokes, and all of a sudden, oh, your wife's bald. Nigga, what?
Yeah.
What? Not anything about our relationship.
Nope.
Not about my big facial features, which I can take. I'm a man. We can rib each other. Mm-hmm. Don't rib my wife at the Oscars.
Of something she can't control.
You didn't. Anyways, man, I'm ready to move on.
That's cool.
Give us your thoughts on Chris Rock's Selective Outrage comedy special. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Come back next week for some more content.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out our video that we did on Will Smith's apology. I think it's the last time we talked about this situation. So make sure you kind of get a little bit of backstory on what we thought about that. And make sure you subscribe anytime we get any situations like this. We'll be sure to talk about it.